Welcome back to the Kalin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadget for all your fine quality kayak fishing accessories. Go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, coolers, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. And the 153 Bait Company for all your hard and soft bait needs. Go to the 153angler.com. So join with me as together we dive into the tips and techniques that will help make us better anglers out on the water. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Bass Fishing for Noobs here on the Paddle and Fin Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Lavery, and I wanted to thank you guys again for joining me tonight. Tonight's guest precedes me on the Paddle and Fin Podcast. I went back and looked. We had him on in February of 2020, which is about 2 weeks before I joined the podcast. So this host has been on Paddle and Fin longer than I have, sadly enough. But kidding, of course. But happy to have Bill Schultz back. I wanted to bring back the Smallie expert. His numbers back in 2020 were absolutely amazing. And Bill, you kind of inspired me to start keeping track of my fish. I started last year. I had 273 fish as of the end of last year, as of in 1 year. And so my count has started. I don't think I'll ever come close to catching you. What's your numbers like right now?
Well, keeping a log. Okay. I did an article a couple of years ago, and I joked about how growing up in the YMCA in Madison, Wisconsin, my dad ran the YMCAs. All the big weightlifters kept what they did in their log, in their loose leaf notebooks. And then I swam at the University of Wisconsin, and I kept a 3x5 card in my wallet of all the yards we swam in every practice. Then I began my racquetball career that is still going. It's, 5,500 matches and, all that stuff. And so I kept a log. So I joked that I'd get back into fishing in 1992. I guess it's obvious I'm going to keep a log. And so catching my first smallmouth bass in May of 1994, I'm sitting at 26,737. And all but about 500 have come since 1997. So 25 years, about 26,200 or 300. And you noted your year. My best year ever was 2007 with 2,048 smallmouth. And I will tell you that this year I did 2,583 smallmouth. So I blew my own 1 year record out of the water by 500 smallmouth. So I jumped from my goal of hitting 25,000 this year, which I did on August 3rd with a 4.5 pounder in Lake Michigan in Sturgeon Bay, to 38 days later hit 26,000, and bang, I ended the year at that big number. So here's my deal. I'm retired. Do I go nuts next year, spending a lot of time into my waders, to be real honest with you? Do I try for 30,000 next year, which would mean I'd have to do about 3,200 plus smallmouth in 1 year? I don't think, but I think by the next year, maybe I'll do it. So, Sean, there's a long answer to your short question.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. I was thinking when I listened to the recording again shortly before tonight's show, back in February of 2020, I think you were sitting at 23,000 and change. So, I mean, you've made leaps and bounds in that short 2 year span.
Well, the fun thing for me is obviously I'm competitive. I am a Big Ten swimmer. I'm in the Racquetball Hall of Fame in Wisconsin. And so for me, I'm not I don't have a problem with some types of tournaments, the kayak tournaments and immediate release. But for me, my competition are my numbers. So that's what I do. I get out there and the other thing is, hey, as I'm getting older, keeping track of all those fish, it really helps.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Keeping just the act of keeping those logs, I think is a great mental exercise. And just, when you're on the water, how do you count? Do you have a counter that you click off, or it's just all?
No, I don't. And I was just going to joke that I'm really good with just myself. and I'm not too bad when there's one other person either waiting or kayaking with me or whatever. But a few years ago, at my Smallie Night Out event, I gave away a day with me in Door County, and that was tough with 2 guys. So I told them they had to keep track of their own. But no, I pretty much, it's so ingrained in me. I just keep track. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going along, so I don't lose concentration, and all of a sudden go, geez, where was I? Was that 10 or was that 15? So I guess having done it, really keeping a log since 1992 when I got back into fishing, it's second nature. So that's just how my mind works on the water.
Ours kind of started as a competition between me and my old co-host at the beginning of last year. He decided to make a little, wager to see who would catch the most fish. Unfortunately, he left the podcast to explore some other ventures, but I still keep in touch with him a lot. He may actually make an appearance here before too long, but because I still want to find out how he ended up last year. I know I was kind of ahead of him at the midway point, but he also lives down in Tennessee, so he has a little bit longer of a fishing season than I do.
Yeah, but you know what, guys? You guys still owe me that dinner out because I caught more than both of you.
You absolutely did. You crushed us. So, but like I said, I'm looking forward to going back over kind of some of the tips and tricks that you use. The baits, I know you like to, there's not a ton of different baits that you use. Yeah, and you're holding.
No, there aren't, and that's one of the things that I have fun doing. I think we all hear the jokes. Most fishing lures catch fishermen and not fish. And, for quite a few years, I was on the pro staff with Crestliner. And I had a wonderful 2017 Raptor 1850. And that boat came with, under the passenger console, a place for 6 Plano boxes. And when I picked the boat up in April, I put 6 Plano boxes with all sorts, crankbaits, jerkbait, all that stuff.
Right.
I touched them again in November when I turned the boat back in because I decided fishing on Lake Michigan and Green Bay as much as I do, and life is short. I was able to, the dealership also had Yarcraft, the wonderful fiberglass boats that are, when they say my 18.5 footer runs like a 20 footer, it does. It's incredible. So I just try to keep it simple. The KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. For me, it's keep it simple, Schultz. And it really goes back to, I could take a cereal bowl right now and say 90% or more, 95% of the smallies I've caught have come on things that I could stick in that cereal bowl. So, if you want, Sean, for now, I could, for the viewers, they want to. And here's the other thing, and it's sort of what I do with my talks, and I think I'm the only person I've seen that does this. Back in the, back in the day, I used to, for my PowerPoint talks, I do a handout with 6 slides front and back, so it ended up being about 10, 15 pages. Now I simply do a PDF, and anybody that comes to my talks can email me and have a PDF of my talk. And so with the viewers, if any of you, and I say this, and people get surprised, if you've got questions, smalliecentral@gmail.com, SMALLIE central@gmail.com. First of all, I'm happy if you're a catch and release person and you don't bed fish. You have to be honest with me. I'm happy to put you on my Smallie email group. Sean's on it. I got about 900 guys on it. It gets growing. But if you have questions of what I'm going to talk about tonight, you don't need to be taking notes all night. You're welcome to email me, and I can fill you in. I apologize. I got a little, stuff in my throat. I got water here. But Sean, do you want me to just kind of go through some of the things through the years that I've had such great luck with?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was curious if it's changed at all since 2020 when we had you on before, if there's been any additions.
It has. It actually has. And it 2 additions, 2 companies, 2 of their products. But let's go back to, and I know you love it.
Yes,
Here's the
sir.
Rebel Teeny Wee Crawfish. And probably I'm at 5,000 to 7,000. I don't know for sure, 5,000, 6,000 smallmouth on this alone. 1.25 inch, 1/10 ounce, comes with number 14 hooks. You see them on the front. I change out to number 8s or 10s. I prefer 10s because they're a little smaller, a little less. I don't like to hurt the fish. It's the only treble lure that I use. But this is a phenomenal river lure. I always get, when I'm on a pie, I got to make sure it swims nose down. It's a floater diver. It's fabulous for little 2 and 3 foot deep little rivers. It's got a tight wiggle, color in a clear water. The browns, the greens, like what's in there with crawfish might be helpful, but I really think it's the other things I've talked. This has been in my river arsenal from forever. I mean, from 1994 or 5, when I first started catching smallmouth. I bought it to fish a pond near my house. Very first cast, I caught 2 bluegills. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And then that was 94, 95. I think that year or the next year, I began using it on rivers. It's always with me when I'm usually in my waders on these small rivers. It's a great, great lure. I should say, the one thing that I think people, I'm totally a spinning rod guy until actually today. I'm on the St. Croix Pro staff and have been for 25 years. And I've got 2 orders in right now. And I've most of my rods this year are going to be the new Victory rods, which are phenomenal at 180.
I just got my first one. Yep.
What?
I just got my first Victory.
Well, for the price, I have to tell you, I got early before the season started last year. They sent some of us a rod, and I had the 7'3" medium extra fast, and I used it a lot, and I loved it.
Is that the Max Tactical? Is that what that's called?
Here's the thing that's interesting. I don't go by those things.
Okay.
I'm fishing smallmouth. I'm fishing on rivers, usually smaller rivers, or I'm fishing on big water. Smaller rivers, if you look at my pictures over the years, and when I'm up, and most of my big water fishing has been Door County, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, where I don't take pictures of anything unless it's 4 pounds. On the rivers, because I'm taking selfies and holding it up or whatever, if I hit a 2-pounder, that's what I start keeping track of in my log. I don't keep track of, hey, I caught 10 3-pounders today in Door County. No, I caught 4 4-pounders and a 5 and a 6. That's how I do it. So that's how I keep track of that. And the rods that I use are geared to that. On the rivers, I have to say my favorite length and action is our 610 medium light extra fast. The Mojo, which is a phenomenal deal with that Avid blank. I'm fishing Mojos, which retail at 140. I'm also fishing Legend X that retail at 400. And next year I'll have a few of the 610 medium light extra fast Victories. And then I use those because on the rivers, the fish are usually smaller. That can throw the teeny wee crawfish as light as it is. I'm using a 10-pound, usually Daiwa J-Braid 8X. I love it. Chartreuse or white, so I can see it. And I use a fluorocarbon leader, 10-pound. It works great. It also is a great rod for a couple of other things I'm going to talk about. And when I get to Sturgeon Bay and I'm using Ned rig, sometimes tubes on the bottom, swimming the Keitech, if you would ask me in 2000 and early 2018 or 2018, I would have said, hey, the best rod for these presentations, even up there, is a 6'10", 7-foot medium light extra fast. Well, that was until August 12th of 2018 when I did something I never have had happen. I lost at least 4 or 5, not 4-pounders, 5-pound fish. They jump, they spit the jig with the Ned rig. They did what, and all I could figure was the medium light just wasn't giving me quite the backbone that I needed. So in 2019, up there until now, I'm using medium extra fast or sometimes a fast. So I just, that little extra backbone seems to, with those little bitty Ned rig hooks that I use, which I'll talk about, seems to drive it into the jaw a little bit better. And so that's what I use. The teeny wee crawfish has been great. If you look at, and Sean, you had some, but I began using in 2007. My last day in Door County, my 2 last days in Door County, when I used to just fish up there in May and June, was the first time I ever used the Kalin's lunker-grubs. I'm showing you right now the Blue Pearl Salt and Pepper, which is a phenomenal and by far my best color on rivers. They come in a 3, a 4, and a 5-inch. I have liked the 4-inch and have had arguments with some very good fishermen who like the 5-inch. The reason is the 4-inch still has the thick, fairly long body. It's got still the long, wispy tail. And I use and I'm not going to thread it right now, but over the years, I've used and loved the Gopher Tackle, Big John's. Note something, everybody. Note how the eyelet is flush, faces forward instead of side and at an angle. Well, Gopher Tackle, sadly, about 3 years ago, went out of business. I felt very badly. I don't need to get into the story, but I'm excited to tell everybody, and you might have seen it in Fisherman, 2 people that have become friends of mine from Iowa bought Gopher Tackle. And so Gopher Tackle is back on the, you can Google it. They're making all the jigs, the Big Johns, and the neat thing is they're coming with many more colors. And for those on my email group, they're going to be really excited next week when they get the email with an actually surprisingly great discount for my group. So
nice.
No, I'm excited because my guys are going to be excited. I've already had a bunch of people, once they heard Gopher was back in business, they've been buying them.
Yeah.
And the Gopher jig, it's been great because it's like a 2-aught hook. It comes right all the way through the body, comes out right by the tail. They're designed to have the tail swim down. To be honest with you, swim it up or down, I don't think it matters. The deal is you swim it steady and as slow as possible. If you tick the bottom, speed it up a little bit. And if you see this in current, as I've got a video of, that tail just undulates like crazy. And I will tell you, about 6-7 years ago, I hit a river in southeast Wisconsin, shocked to see it so high, shocked to see it so dirty, 6-7 inches of visibility. Water was flowing, and I go, darn. No, I said another word. But I said, oh, hell, I'm here. Let's fish. I was shocked to spend 2 or 3 hours, catch 35 smallmouth, all on this. So I'm thinking there's something going on. These fish are feeling that tail undulating. So it continues to be one of my all-time best river presentations. Not probably using it quite as much in Sturgeon Bay because a few other things have worked a little better. I will tell you, I've only used 2 colors pretty much. On the rivers, I'm using Blue Pearl Salt and Pepper. And on the clear waters of a place like Door County, I can tell you that in 2014, in May and June, I caught 714 smallmouth. I was averaging 46 smallmouth every 8 hours on the water. And I caught, you're not going to believe this, I caught all 714 on the 4-inch Kalin's smoke, salt, and pepper. Not all but one, all of them. And that's still a great clear water color, lakes, rivers, whatever. There you go.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. And it's got the flex. It probably looks a little lighter in the water, but those are my two main colors. And, Acme Tackle that owns Kalin's was right over here, 35 miles from me in Jefferson, Wisconsin. My good friend Matt McConich is their national sales guy. And, it's been really a great presentation. It's probably the only lure that I've talked about in my talks where somebody actually emailed me and said, Bill, it doesn't work. Literally, I've never had anybody tell me something doesn't work because I use everything before I tell anybody. And I said, well, how are you swimming it? Oh, he said, no, I'm jigging it off the bottom. I go, no, swim it as slow and steady as you can. If you tick a rock, speed it up. He obviously emailed me and said, it works. So that's how you use the Kalin's lunker-grub. Those are two presentations for me that go back, into the 90s, all the way through the 2000s, up through, the Kalin for me was my prime presentation from 2007 late through 2015, 16. And that's when I did with COVID, I unfortunately haven't been able to do it the last 2 years, but I did 9 years in a row an event in Southeast Wisconsin called Smalley Night Out. Sold out at 130 people every year. I did a talk, brought someone else in. No one left early because I ran it like clockwork. And at 8:45, I started giving away $6,000 to $7,000 worth of great items. The last time I ran the event, the Orion cooler, $400 and some went before the St. Croix rod, but everyone who comes in for their $16 with their buddies or whatever would walk away with a package of last time Z-Man samples, a teeny wee crawfish, and then probably the worst anybody got was something worth $15 or $20. So it worked out. It was a great event. I haven't done it. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to not do it this year. And I'll probably send the money back this year. I'll have to write a lot of checks, but I just, I don't know when I can do it again. But I used to run an event in Sturgeon Bay. And the last time I did, I had about 50 people. And we did it over a weekend. But one of my guys who's become a good friend wanted to fish with me. So he went out and fished with me. And this was 2016 in June. And he goes, Bill, have you ever heard of the Ned rig or Z-Man? And I go, well, I think I've heard of the Ned rig, but I haven't heard of Z-Man. And hey, Sean, by the way, am I okay with my stories?
No, you're good, man.
Okay, good.
I love hearing them.
I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. That's what happens, I guess, when you like to tell stories, and as you get older, you tell more stories.
Hey.
But anyways, we went out and we fished with a TRD and a small jig, a little bit around some docks, caught a few little fish. And that was it. We didn't fish it anymore. Well, August 1st of that year, I'd been asked by a friend from Madison. He said, hey, Bill, grab your kayak, come on around. Let's go up the other side of the peninsula, fish the Oconto River. I go, geez, Steve, it's 90 miles. I just got up here. So I was lazy and I went out my boat. I went to an island a mile offshore. I sat there for 7 hours in an area about the size of 2 swimming pools. And I sat there with the Green Pumpkin Goby TRD on a 1/15 ounce Shrooms Z-Man jig. Caught 62 smallmouth. I thought, wow, this is pretty good. Now, I'm not from Missouri, but I'm from Wisconsin. But anyways, later in the month of August, I'm in southwest Wisconsin on a little river. And 4 hours, I catch my first 15 smallies on a great little lure. I love the Booyah Pond Magic Buzzbait. It's a little bitty buzzbait that's a blast. So again, this is one of my favorites. So 15 fish with this. The next 3 hours, I go to a Ned rig with both the TRD and the little Finesse TRD Tube Z. Okay, let's add another 66 smallmouth to my 15. That's a pretty incredible 4 hours. And the neat thing was, in this little bitty river, because the little extra weight, this is getting down. If the deep area might be 3, maybe even only 4 feet, it was still getting down into that area where a few of the bigger fish would hang, where even though the Kalin's is great, it wasn't getting that deep. So anyways, I'm going, wow, this is the second time. This is great. So one more time, same island, September 2nd. So we're talking a month. I go out there and I sat there for 5 hours with the TRD green pumpkin goby, and I caught 57 smallmouth. Well, I'm sold. And I will tell you that a little less this year because of the rivers, but probably before this year, from 2016 to 2020, probably well over 4,000 smallmouth on the Ned rig. And the key thing is, and here's the key thing why you can't just take another cigarette-shaped lure and cut it off. It's the elastec. It's the buoyancy of this thing that sticks up off the bottom like a little weenie. And in Sturgeon Bay, where there's scum on all the rocks year-round, this doesn't get hung up because it's the little jig sticks into the scum. This sticks above it. This is a 1/10 ounce jig. I'm using 1/10 and 1/15 up there, even as windy as it can get, because with my spot lock on my Minn Kota, I can hold myself. In my Coosa FD, my Jackson Coosa FD.
Yep.
It's wonderful because unlike, I love paddling kayaks, but with that pedals, I can hold myself like my spot lock. So if the wind's blowing me, I can hold myself and fish a lighter jig. So and in fact, I'd say of the at least 5,000 smallies I've caught on the Ned rig, about 99% with the TRD, it's been green pumpkin goby, and with the tube Z, I use that more on rivers because it is a little lighter, and with the light jig, it bounces a little better off the rocks. I don't get hung up as much. So the Ned rig with the Z-Man products, and I will tell you that I'm going to show you the jigs that I like. I got these a year before I ever used them. This is the Ned locks. This is with that little lead keeper.
Yep.
It's really good. I was compared to a little piece of wire. It's really, really good. The other of their jigs, it's the Shrooms, and that's got the wire keeper. That's a really nice jig too. The Ned locks come with a little heavier hook, so you tend not to break them or bend them as much. So that's what I'm doing. So here you go. We've got the teeny wee crawfish. You've got the Kalins. You've got the Z-Man products, which are great. Well, a couple years ago, one of the bait shops in Sturgeon Bay that sold, and their guys are very knowledgeable, they were telling me about, say 3 years ago, the keitech lures and the fat swing in particular. Fat swing impact. Here's the 3.3. Here's the 2.8. I bought from them a bunch of 3.8 and 3.3s, which they told me to do. And that fall of 2019, I had some really good luck in the fall, October, with the 3.3. Well, the next year, I began using the 2.8. And I can tell you that May 5th of 2020, third day of the season, is up there, windy as hell. I went to a secret lake that was blowing 30 miles an hour straight down the lake, and I was at the wrong end of the lake. I was in my Kraken 15.5, which I'll never get rid of, which is a phenomenal big water Jackson kayak that's not made anymore. But anyways, I'm out there in a few feet of water in 25 mile an hour to 30 mile an hour wind, catching 3 fish from 5 to almost 6, plus some 4s on just swimming the 2.8 keitech. So the 2.8, I don't know what it is. I mean, here's the thing. A lot of people will say, Sean, and you hear it, oh, big lures catch big fish. And okay, maybe they do. But my feeling is little lures catch all fish. And I've just had better luck all year, the last 2 years, swimming the 2.8 better than even the 3.3, yet the 3.3 can be pretty good. And I'm swimming, again, these swim great on, the gopher jigs. They swim great on, and I'm blanking on I've got the little package. I have the package right here. How's this?
There you go.
Yeah, I just used these for the first time. Z-Man makes this is only the 1/12, so great for little rivers, but they make them up to 3/8. This is their finesse eyes. Kind of cool. It's got that fish look up front, and it's got a little heavier hook, and in the heavier weights, the hook's a little bigger. So I've been using these too. So, it's obviously the negative keitech. I don't have to tell everybody, you see someone saying, God, I've been having great luck with the keitech. And your next question is, okay, what's the most fish you've ever caught on a keitech? And they'll go, 3. I did 5 one time, but 3's the next. They are very fragile, and that's one of the reasons why I think they're so good. They undulate phenomenally. The colors, there's a variety of colors that I use. I've become a big fan. And again, nicely, and they're not inexpensive, but they're nice. They work. I do have a discount for my people on my email group. Not a big one, but not bad. So I've had just great luck with the keitech, and they've been absolutely phenomenal on the little rivers and the 2.8. And literally, I'm not exaggerating. I do everything in the world to give them extra life. I bite them off. I turn them over. And the only reason I'm a little careful about this, I don't like to deposit lures in water. But I will tell you that you get down to where you bit off the end and everything. I've literally swum them back, hooked like a darn minnow, and I'm catching fish. So it's really a great lure. Now, I want to make sure I don't forget anything. The other thing, and I bet a lot of you that are listening are big tube fans. In my talks over the years, this is my exact comment with a picture of like a 2.5 inch, nice, little bulkier tube. I'll say, tubes can be great if you can find where you don't have the rocks. And I'll say in Sturgeon Bay and Door County, they can be phenomenal, but with the scum on the rocks, they're really tough to fish up there in shallower water. Well, that being said, and I'm one of those people that if somebody shows me that something is working, tell me, how many of you hate being out in your waders, in your kayak, or in your boat near somebody and they're catching fish and you're not? I hate that. It really gets to me. It's the competitiveness. But so let's go to a phenomenal stretch of 10 days in the first 10 days of November of 2020 with air temps 55 to 65 degrees in Wisconsin with water temps 46, 47. I'm up there. I'm all excited. Ned rig, keitech. This is going to be great. Last fall was phenomenal. I'm going to have a shot at some big fish. And first of all, I've caught a fair number of 6-pound fish. Up until then, my biggest was, approaching 6.5. I will tell you, for those of you that have heard about Sturgeon Bay, things began going downhill in 2015. I was telling Sean at 14 and 15, Bassmasters named it number 1 and 2 in the United States. In 2021, it did not make the top 25 in the Central Division. There's things going on. It's still a fun fishery, but not the same. But anyways, when you hear people, oh my God, you go up there and you think, hey, 6-pounders are a dime a dozen. You're going to have a fairly good shot if you know what you're doing at a 5-pounder, occasionally a 6-pounder. But when you think going bigger than that, so anyways, I go up there. I know the dates because it was election day 2020, no matter what your politics are, a strange day. And I'm up on that Monday way north, and I can usually tell. I have fished 650 days or more up in Sturgeon Bay, and I've been skunked once or twice. 3-4 hours, I could tell. I didn't catch a fish. Well, I didn't know what was going on. The next day, Tuesday, I think it was November 3rd. Again, 3-4 hours. I didn't even bother staying out. I didn't catch a fish. That's never happened. So I go down to an area much closer to Sturgeon Bay, and I'm out there, caught a few fish, and there's a guy up ahead of me. He's catching fish. I got somewhat close, and he didn't mind. We're in deep water, 25, 30 feet. I go, what are you doing? I said, I'm not catching anything. He goes, I'm using tubes. Okay, I got some. So I did a little better. That was Thursday. The next day, I ran into him. I'd seen him out there again. He's a tournament guy. A few weeks earlier, had caught a 11-pound largemouth to propel him to near the top of a big tournament in Georgia. But anyways, he's from Wisconsin. And I see him at the launch, and he said a certain color. Well, I had that color, and I bought a few more at the tackle shop. And on November 7th, 8th, and 9th, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it was amazing. I did 53 smallmouth with 31 fish between 5 and 7 pounds, 4 ounces, all on the Boga grip, 3,500 world record. So we're talking totally accurate weight. That afternoon on that Saturday, there's my all-time best at 7 pounds, 4 ounces. I got a kick out of it because very close to me, he was there after me, was a freshwater Hall of Fame fisherman, top guide up there, Dale Stroshine. Nice guy, great guide, who a few years earlier, after 27 years, he said he was being interviewed, finally caught his first 7+. Well, this was the end of my 26th year, and I held that big guy up, 21.5 inches. I knew it was very big. And I yelled, Dale, my first 7+. So I'm 46-degree water temperature. I'm still hustling like crazy. Took a lousy picture with the windshield camera, quickly put it on the board to just see the length. And I'm releasing it really quickly. That thing just flew out of my hands. Well, 10 feet away is Dale. Bill, I wanted to see it, And I said, well, there it is. So anyways, that was on, not this color, but similar, a 2.5-inch right bite baits tube. The next morning, same rod and reel, same tube, all beat up. My number 2, only 20.5 inches, 6 pounds, 12 ounces. Just a nice fish. I yanked that tube off at that point and saved it. But over the next few days, it was great. The reason I mentioned right bite baits, they're in Batesville, Arkansas, is that no discounts, but I got to tell you, go to their website. You'll be shocked at the great prices on their packages of 10 tubes, and they make 3 sizes of the insert jigs. And I will tell you that they are better priced than anywhere, and they're really a nice product. I again, had really nice luck last early November up in farther north. I did do my biggest of 2021, which was 6 pounds, 4 ounces. So, but anyways, in, colder water, deeper water, I become a tube fan. So there's another, something new. The other new things, guys, and Sean, am I okay with finishing up on this?
You're doing great. Yep.
Okay. So I'm having such great luck on the rivers with the Keitech Fat Swing Impact, the 2.8. So I also have, and I'd never ever used them before late summer and early fall, and that is the Easy Shiner, 3 inches by Keitech. There it is. And I will tell you, it doesn't last forever, but it is more durable than the Fat Swing. And it's really got great, and it was just phenomenal. 3 inches, it's just dynamite. And the other similar lure, and I want to grab I might only have the 2.5, but this comes in a 3 and a 2.5. It is the Z-Man Slim Swims. As you can see, it and the Easy Shiner, they look a lot alike. Be honest with you, the 2.5 works fine. Great. I like the 3 point maybe a little better, the 3 inch. With these, though, I'll tell you a good story. I saw a news release from Z-Man, and I know them really well. And it was 2 Bass Pro guys. One is a friend of mine from Sturgeon Bay, great guide. He's on the circuit right below Bassmasters, and he won one of those this last fall. But they were talking about using a Z-Man lure, and they each caught 100 fish on it.
On one lure, yeah.
Okay, so I emailed my main contact, and I go, hey, I saw the release. That's great. I said, I just want you to know that I've got a Slim Swims that I took off at 150, and I didn't have to. So let me tell you, the Slim Swims is a durable little river presentation that is just phenomenal. I was using the Easy Shiner and the Slim Swims for hundreds of fish starting in late summer. And just like the Kalins, all of these swimming, it's slow and steady, no jerking and let it sit, no jerk pause, as slow and steady as you can. And they're just dynamite. The thing is, obviously, on these little rivers, you all know this, the pyramid is to where, this last year on the river that I fished a lot, I had a couple 3-pounders, a few 2.5s, half dozen 2s. In the summer, you're going to get a lot of 7, 8, 9 inch, 10 inch fish. In the fall, you start for whatever reason, start catching more, 12, 13 inch fish that are a little fatter. So that's it. I've gone through everything. And what's neat is, and Sean's a kayak guy, I can sit in one of my Krakens with that thin center compartment, and I can put every lure that I possibly could need with a small thing with my Z-Man and Gopher jigs, my water, my camera, my phone, extra couple of towels, all in the center. And that's because I don't take a lot of stuff. When I'm wading, in my wading vest, this pocket's got a bunch of Z-Man. This pocket's got the Keitechs. In my back pouch, I have to reach in there to get my little container, plain old container with the teeny wee crawfish and my jigs. I keep my camera and my fluorocarbon in my couple of pockets. I got my boga grip in an inside pocket, and I will tell you, please, everybody, $130, put a float on it, because I lost in this river one of my I don't even know when I lost it. So I have to do that with my boga grip, and I keep my my Gerber fisherman tool, which I love. They don't make them anymore. Thank God I got 5 or 6 of them. But that's all I take. It's really simple. I'm out with 2 rods on the rivers, one stuck in my wader belt and one in my hand, and that's it. And in the kayak, I've got my my Kraken crate. So I've got my ram mounts for a couple of external rod holders. I take usually when I'm in the kayak on the water 5 rods and reels. So that's how I do it. Now, if I'm in my boat, different story. I'm usually out by myself, so I have 6, 7, 8 rods ready to go. A lot of times they're either 5 or 6 Ned rigs or 5 or 6 keitechs, and they're leaning up against my back platform. And that's how I operate. And it's when I do occasionally have someone with me, it's always frustrating because I have to be a little more careful. I wouldn't want to be a guide. My guide friends that are with St. Croix, they're usually not using Legend X rods at $400 because that really is frustrating when someone steps on one of those. Although those rods have a 15-year warranty, and they take great care of their customers. So I get embarrassed. I broke 2 years ago. I had the tip break off of 2 or 3 rods, and I said, "I'm so embarrassed. I don't break rods." They said, "Hey, Bill, that's really not that bad." So, but they obviously took care of me. So, anyways, that's everybody who's listening, that's my smallie story, and I'm sticking with it. It works for me. I catch a lot of fish. I enjoy it. I'm careful with the fish. Catch and release 100%. I try to get them back in the water. My pictures are selfies quickly in the river, or I have that same camera. I have a Canon D10 waterproof camera that goes back a dozen years. That's probably taken more pictures of big smallmouth than any camera in the world. It's mounted on my windshield of my Yarcraft with one of the ram mount camera mounts, which are great. And that's what I do. And so again, if anyone, we got some time left, but if anybody does want to email me, that's smalleycentral@gmail.com to get on my group. And Sean's not in Wisconsin. I've got a number of guys that are around the country. Usually they're guys that are in areas with smallies, but most of my people are from Northern Illinois and Wisconsin, where I've done so many talks at the shows over the years. So Sean, I guess I'll turn it back to you, and you can say, "Bill, you missed something," and I'll go, "I did." Just kidding.
So as usual, tons of great information, and I'll include your email address in the show notes, so that if anybody wants to reach out and see if they can see about joining that. I was going to mention there are you do include discount codes with that, so you definitely get something right off the bat almost.
Well, I wanted to, and I brought them up just to show the kayakers. One of the companies, if you see pictures of me, going back at least a dozen years, I'm like a dermatologist's poster boy.
Yes.
I'm wearing my Columbia pants. I'm wearing always long sleeve SPF shirts like this nice Jackson one I've got with a Sims or a Columbia, or the long sleeve workout shirts, a buff hat, Costa Del Mar sunglasses, and sunscreen on the little bit of my face that's showing. But I also, like anybody, probably mine are in better shape than most guys my age, but I'll tell you, our hands get hammered where we're holding a rod and reel. They get hammered, even with sunscreen. So probably about 11 or 12 years ago, I came across Glacier Glove with their sun gloves. And I'm not exaggerating. I literally have a hard time grabbing a fish without, whether it be the real thin nylon Glacier gloves, or when I'm kayaking, I got to tell you, I discovered years ago their fly fishing glove. It's called their stripper fighting glove. No, it's not what you wear when you go to the wrong place and your wife gets mad. I'm just kidding. But the neat thing about it is you've got the 50 SPF, and look at my palm. You've got material and a little extra material. So what you've got is you've not only got on the river or on the lake kayaking a great glove for the paddle, absolutely phenomenal, and not too bulky. You got the sun protection, and they, as of February 1st, with all these discounts, we're going to have a 40% off and no charge shipping, and they only run like $29 anyways. But let me just tell you, they're sun gloves, and they come in phenomenally cool colors. So anyways, I got my gloves on right now, and I guess I'm ready to do some paddling. It's like 30 degrees here. Yesterday morning it was -8 here in southeast Wisconsin, and up in Sturgeon Bay, where we've got a little house on Lake Michigan, it's like -20. So needless to say, I'm not an ice fisherman. I spend a lot of time, I guess, thinking about fishing and working on my talks. So this is a good tip on you kayakers that love to paddle, which I do too.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I don't have much open water near me. We were
Sean, you're in Pennsylvania,
PA, Southern PA. Yeah, so we most of the water near me is frozen. I saw a little bit of open water in the middle of the river when I drove across today, but it's not reachable by kayak. I'd have to be breaking ice to get out there. So
yeah, that's always a challenge.
My poor kayak is hanging up in the garage for at least a little bit longer.
Yeah, I've got 2 hanging in my garage here, and I've got 2 at my garage in Sturgeon Bay on my Malone rack. And my Malone trailer they store so nice up against the wall. It's up against the wall till probably April.
Okay. I know one of the questions I was going to ask you, you talked about your retrieve, the slow, just if you start ticking the bottom, then you speed it up a little bit. Are you casting up current, down current, across current? What's your strategy there?
Okay, I should say with the teeny wee crawfish, first of all, it's bringing it with the current. You always hear about the fish sit with their face in the current, waiting for it. Can work, but let me tell you, it's really tougher to judge the speed on them, but at least they float. You start doing one of the swim baits, now you're going to have more trouble in the rocks. I tend to cast a little bit downstream or cross current so that I'm able to judge my speed better. And with the teeny wee crawfish, I think that bringing it cross current or with against the current, that enhances the wiggle even more, and it becomes even more of a fish catching magnet. So I'm downriver bringing back against the current or cross current. I will tell you guys though, with a little guy like the Booyah buzzbait, wherever I threw that just now, that's definitely cross current, bringing it perpendicular to shore. And so
I know in my experience with the tiny wee crawlbait, at least when I throw against current, I can reel it slower when I'm coming that way versus when, yes. I'm almost trying to keep up with it when it's coming, when I'm, casting upstream and bringing it down. But when I cast it downstream and bring it back up against the current, I can go a lot slower and really feel that vibration at the end of my line.
That's exactly right, Sean. That's exactly right. It makes it so much easier to fish. You're not guessing. Oh, geez, am I doing it fast? And whatever. You're going to feel the vibration a lot more, and you're going to be within a much smaller box than when you're coming the other direction.
Okay, perfect. And on the Z-Man and the Easy Shiner, do you throw those on the same heads, the gopher heads, or the?
Yeah, I've used the lighter, smaller. The thing is, when I'm looking at, for example, right here, for years, in fact, when I did my talks, the old people that had to sell gopher provided me with a 2-pack that included the 2 that I like the best for shallower water. One was a 1/16 Big Johns, and the other one was a 3/32 Big Johns. I gave away probably 6,000-7,000 little packets of these because, well, they sold more jigs for them, but they're such a great product. The problem with the littler swim baits, the 2/0 hook is a little too big. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I've even swum. You take a 1/10 Nedlocks with that little hook. I've used these or the 1/15th. I think going 1/15th, 1/10 max in a shallow river, and typically 1/15th is all I'll go, because if it's any heavier, you can't swim it slow enough. You're going to get down in the rocks. So, you've got to have it so that you take a little, like the 2.5-inch slim swims. If I use, that's not too bad, look at that, about halfway down the body. You start going with like the Big Johns with the bigger hook, it's a little too far, too far down to the tail.
Now, I know when I remember when Ryan had you on the news show, and I remember actually emailing you because at that time you had said that Go for Jigs wasn't making jigs anymore. And I had emailed you and asked you, okay, well, what do you recommend then? Because I didn't see a lot on the market. Since then, there have been a few things that came out. Now, this is the Z-Man mushroom head. So it's very similar. And I was wondering if you're saying you throw it on the 110 Nedlocks, this is very similar to that, only it has a little bit of a rounded head.
Yeah, well, see, Z-Man actually got some of the molds from Gopher.
Okay.
And now I don't know if that's going to shift or not now that Gopher has been purchased. What I like about that mushroom head, I do like the Nedlocks. The Gophers come with the prongs, and it's okay. Let me get it up here. It comes with the prongs. That can still work really fine. I think people have to experiment. The problem is jigs have gotten very expensive.
Right.
You're looking at $4 or $5 for 3, or whatever. And that's where I'm so excited that this discount, I'm not going to tell you how much, but it's more than I'm it's really nice. And they're really excited. There's just, they're very excited. They're doing a great job, and they've, it's already been noted in Fisherman. And I'm so happy they were, Gopher purchased by such a great couple. And it's going to be super, because I'll be using them for some of my presentations, and I'll be using, some of the Z-Man stuff for some of them. It's a matter of finding what works the best. With the Keitech, you want to, ideally use something that tears them up as little as possible. Right. So, yeah, I got asked that question when Gopher went out of business. And I said, guys, I got a call from Matt Straw, an email from Matt Straw. He's the top smallie writer in the world from In Fisherman. And Matt said, Bill, have you had any, contact with Gopher? I said, Matt, not for a year or so. And he said, no, me either. And then he goes, well, I'm set for a number of years. And I said, well, to be honest, I am too. And that's sort of been my, not a wise ass answer. That's why I'm so happy it's back in business. So again, the guys that love them, and I've got so many that I've turned on to it, they now can get them. And so it'll be great.
Yeah, that definitely made me excited to hear that, because I the way the line tie is, there's not many out there like that. And I think,
and they use really, really good hooks. And again, nothing against, Z-Man uses a variety of hooks. They're really finesse shrooms is a great Ned rig jig. But in that 1/10, 1/15th in particular, and the 1/20th, it is a really light hook. I like it for a lot of reasons, but it can really, setting the hook on a big smallie, they can bend. And then if they bend, and the fish can get off. The neat thing about the Ned rig and all of these presentations, surprisingly, with even really big fish, almost never are you not hooking them in and around the mouth. I wish I didn't have to hook fish at all, but I do like catching them. So I'm only using The only treble I use is a teeny wee crawfish, and to be honest, even the number 10 hook is not very big. So I'm not feeling too bad about hurting the fish. So,
well, and I was just going to say that. I mean, I throw lipless crankbaits. I throw square bills and stuff, and the teeny wee crawfish is so much easier to get out to it doesn't get snagged on my net nearly as much. It's just much easier to deal with.
Well, I can tell you that back in about 2005, when I ran the Alumni Association for the Medical College of Wisconsin and the formerly Marquette University Medical School, and the president of the college and I were heading to Minnesota and Iowa, or Minnesota and La Crosse for some alumni dinners. And I had a modified V tunnel hull with a 50 Mercury on it. And the president of the medical college, a lawyer, was not a fisherman. And I said, "Hey, Mike," I said, "I got an idea. Would you be willing to let me drive, pull my boat, and would you be willing to fly back from Minneapolis so I could stay up and fish?" He said, "Sure." He's a great guy. And sadly, he's passed. But anyway, so I was going to fish the upper Mississippi. Scared the hell out of me. Fast, dirty. I was so happy I did not even put a scratch on the skeg on my new engine. But I ended up going to Hudson, Wisconsin, on the St. Croix River. Oh, that's a good smaller river. It's like a long, deep lake. It's over 100 feet deep in some spots. No surprises. So anyways, I'm out there fishing the teeny wee crawfish, and then number 14, I'm getting lazy. I grabbed the line with about a 14-inch smallie, and it got off, and the line, like a slingshot, boom, it hits me right in the skin by my tendons. Didn't even hurt. And I'm trying to do the thing you're supposed to do, like cut the hook off, pull, I couldn't get the damn thing cut. It's in my right, and I finally just go little bitty number 14 hook. I just grabbed my pliers, I yanked it out. Hardly hurt, like a little mosquito bite. So that's the positive to those little number 14s. I've gotten the question recently: if you put a little bigger treble on the back, do you take the treble off the front? My answer is no. But when that treble does, and it will, the hooks start bending, forget about it. The main hook is that number 10 in the back, as you found out, Sean.
Yes. Yep. No, and I was super happy with it, and it definitely, I've noticed that, I don't lose fish on it, and it's been, really productive for me as well.
The reason, I tell you, the reason for that bigger hook is that the number 14s in current, a lot of fish pull off. And I've had my biggest Menominee River fish many years ago, 5.5 pounds on this with the number 14s in both. And my biggest Milwaukee River fish was on a day in 2007 or 8 in the fall. And it was, 19 plus inches. That was on the number 14s, but I feel much more comfortable. And even the number 10s, they still will pull off in the current, but it happens a lot less. So any other questions, Sean? Or
the only other thing that came to my mind real quick is the kind of areas you target. Are you targeting structure, or I'm not sure. Like, I fish the Susquehanna a lot, so we have a lot of ledges, boulders, that kind of thing. So that's kind of like the areas that I target, but I'm not sure what your rivers are like, if they're similar.
They're not like the Susquehanna, which is pretty darn cool. I'd love to get there in a kayak sometime. I've been telling people this for a long time, since I first met Jeff Little a long time ago. And
we just had him on a few weeks ago.
Hey, Jeff's a great guy. He's one of only 2 guys that I actually pushed to get involved with St. Croix. That was a long time ago. But Jeff's a great guy. But no, it's a little different. Our rivers, these little rivers, yeah, they're rocky, and there are a few boulders. But usually it's, what it is I'm standing in the middle or on the shore, casting toward the opposite shore.
Okay.
Trying to find areas that are a little bit deeper. I don't want, 10, 12 inches. It's a little different than what you guys might be fishing and on the Susquehanna. So that's what I look for on the rivers that I fish. And then, a lot of times, not something like the Wisconsin River, which is it's wide and it can be fairly deep in some places. It's still wadable, but more dangerous. A lot of times, kayaking on a small river, the kayak is your transportation from spot to spot. And then you get out and tie it to your waist and you fish. That's more what we do. The Susquehanna, I think, is much bigger.
It is, but there is definitely spots where you can, and there are times of the year, especially in the summer, when it does get low enough that I can, get out just and leash it to me and kind of, or I'll ditch my kayak on a little grass island and go for a wade,
Sure.
In the general area because it's low enough that it's not dangerous. There's definitely times where that's out of the question, but
the rivers, most of the little rivers I fish are not, it's rare to find something more than 4 or 5 feet deep. So,
okay. And the Susquehanna ranges, the joke is it's, a mile wide and a foot deep, but there's definitely places, by me that are, 15, 20 feet. But generally, that's not where I go with my kayak because that's where, all the jet skiers are and the big boats. I kind of stay to the shallow areas because I know that they're not going to bother me up there.
Yeah.
Cool.
We talked about earlier. Anything else you want to touch on? I think I've touched on everything. I'm telling everybody what I use and how I catch all those smallies. So I guess I kind of run dry on that.
That's good. No, and the only thing else I was going to mention is I do like a lot of the things you talk about with conservation, with being careful when you're fishing with around beds. Try not to bed fish. Obviously keep the catch and release is great. I caught my PB Smallie this fall. It was 20.5. And I was the same way. I was so happy that I caught it, but I pretty much had it out of the water enough to put it on the board, take a picture, and I put it back in. After I put it back in, I was like, I probably should have taken more pictures just in case I wanted to get a replica of that or something.
Well, I will tell you from a replica standpoint, for years I said when I hit 7, I'll get a replica. Guess what? When I get 8, maybe I'll get a replica. So I've got pictures, but no, I'm, like I told you earlier, and again, I did a last spring, it was this last spring. I did a 3,000 word article Q&A with David Phillip, PhD, in my opinion, the leading researcher on smallmouth bass in the world. He's done more studies than anyone else. And not a year or two, we're talking 8 to 20 years. And granted, they're on lakes up in Canada, but it's amazing how they did it. Now, do all smallmouth or bass researchers in general agree with him? No. But if anybody, again, would like a copy of this article, I'm happy to send it to you. But the bottom line is, and I told you, back in the 97, 98, 96, when I first started fishing up in Door County, Sturgeon Bay, not to be a hypocrite, I go out and catch a whole bunch of smallmouth on beds. And very quickly, I figured out it wasn't exciting. It wasn't fun. I liked the fact of a grub being swum back, getting slammed, much better than watching that bass 10 feet away and trying to frustrate it for 20 minutes or whatever, and then put it back. And then it also began when I saw a video from the Wisconsin DNR of a male bass, and this was probably in year 2000, being taken off a bed and the gobies inundating the bed in seconds. Well, David Phillip, a PhD emeritus professor, University of Illinois, heads up the United States Fishing Federation nonprofit group. Pretty much that's it. This 3,000 word article, the bottom line is don't bed fish. Because if I happen to accidentally catch in shallow a bedfish in Sturgeon Bay, and I put it back as fast as I do, it's still 50 to 100% chance that that bed is not going to be good, because the bass swims back. Gobies are already there eating. Are they thinking this? I don't know, but they're deciding, should I just go and fight another day? And, Gord Pizer, who did a little thing in Outdoor Canada on my 25,000. Gord is a 2 Hall of Fames, DNR guy from Ontario. Gord wrote a shorter article with David Phillips basically saying the same thing. Don't bedfish. I think it's exciting that the Sturgeon Bay city government is looking at it hasn't happened yet, but possibly only allowing tournaments that are immediate release. We had FLW and the Major League Fishing 2 years ago up there in the summer, and it was the immediate release. People like that format. My guys on my group like that format. Residents, those of us paying property taxes up there, like that format. And even the originator of the big tournament up there that he doesn't run anymore, he runs his own. It's immediate release. I sent him money to help buy the Breckman scales, which MLF uses. And I think it's going to go that way because, up there now they've got the largemouth bass virus. We've been seeing the source for 3-4 years. They finally know what it is. That gets spread by contact. So putting fish in a live well to transport to a weigh-in, or even to have the trophy shot holding 3 or 4 fish, it's not a good idea. And the other thing is, on big water, my feeling is you're going over 3-4 footers and running 20-30 miles with smallmouth and a live well. You can have the greatest boat in the whole world. It's rough on the fish. So, that's just how I am. I don't bed fish. I'd love to see all tournaments like the kayak tournaments, immediate release, and the MLF. And that's just my prejudice. Not saying don't have tournaments, but just be careful and maybe try not to even have them during the spawn, where even immediate release, someone can go out and pull fish off of beds. You now have 5 or 6 people pulling that same 17-inch male off of a bed. Not only the bed may not survive, that male may not survive. A lot of what I'm saying is anecdotal because I'm an observer, but I think a lot of people would agree with what I'm saying, and big time researchers like David Phillip. So if anyone wants that article, you're welcome to email me and I'm happy to send it to you. So that's,
awesome.
I just try to be careful with the fish. I don't want to be too weird, but you know what? I've not lost my interest in smallmouth. I think they're one of the prettiest fish out there. They're not slimy. They're pretty. They fight hard. And I be honest with you, it's sort of like my brother, who's a big time bow hunter, and he says, and he doesn't shoot many unless they're true trophies. He says, I sure wish I could just do catch and release. Mm-hmm. And that's, how I am with the fish. That's why I'm down to just using pretty much just one hook and usually a smaller hook. As little damage as possible, Sean.
That's pretty much the main reason I got out of hunting and into fishing, was because of the fact that I could, for the most part, catch and release. Every once in a while, something will happen that one will get hooked a little deep or something like that, but that's inevitable. But for the most part, 99% of the fish I catch, I release to happily, swim away, so that's one of the things that drew me to fishing in the first place. I hunted at first, and I've kind of pretty much switched entirely to fishing now. And that definitely is something I enjoy about it. Yeah. We're going on an hour and 15 minutes. So
I appreciate Sean being on the show. I really do. And being able to, spread the gospel about catching and releasing smallies and how I do it. To most of your listeners and watchers, you're probably wasting money on a lot of your lures. Hey, I will tell you one thing that I tried for the first time this year, and I actually will try some more. I bought the right hooks, VMC spin shot hooks. I tried drop shotting for the first time.
Okay.
And I found it to be, I could see where it could be a really good presentation. I plan to do that a little bit more. And
Okay.
some of the lures that I've shown you, the small little swim baits, actually work pretty good for drop shotting. So
no, the way you were nose hooking that one, it made me think of a drop shot. So,
so
awesome. Oh, well, do you have any, you want to shout out the sponsors? I mean, I know you listed quite a few already, but.
And I've been fortunate that I'm wearing, kayaking, Jackson Kayak with the great kayaks and Bending Branches and Aquabound paddles, Malone racks and trailers. And then I'm kind of like a man for all seasons. I'm involved with Mercury for how many years now? Going back 15 years, and Crestliner for a long time now with the R-Craft. St. Croix Rods is my longest standing. I like to tell the story about being asked to be on the pro staff in 1998 and wondering why. And I thought, I better do something to make sure they like me. And so that's when I wrote my first article. The next year I did my first talks at a sports show. And so I can thank St. Croix for all the dozens and dozens of articles and all the talks, and actually virtually every smallmouth I've caught has been on a St. Croix rod. So best rods on earth. And I'm never feeling like I don't even think about the rods and reels I use, because they just feel so great and they work so great. So I've been fortunate, and there's a number of these other companies, Ram Mount, Z-Man, Glacier Glove, Keitech, Kalin's, and actually a few others. I've even got a sunglass company that if you don't need prescriptions like me and only need readers, they're phenomenal for a phenomenal price. So again, everything I use, I love. I've used it before I ever got involved. And I think for me, that's important. And I appreciate all their support, but I also think they realize that it's definitely a two-way street. And I actually think they might be getting even more back from me than I'm getting from them. So maybe not. It's at least 50-50.
And lastly, I know you mentioned your email address. Where else can folks find you online or on social media?
I've got on Facebook, I've got a page called Smalley Central. Doesn't have a ton of followers. I get on like, St. Croix Rod Enthusiast, Wisconsin Kayak Fishing Club, some of those sites where I'll put, some of the articles and some of the releases that I'm involved with and some of my thoughts. But I think, as Sean, you found out, I do communicate with my group probably 25, 30 times a year. Obviously, there's some discounts, which are nice, but I also pass along my thoughts on things that I'm doing. I don't tell exactly where I'm fishing. I'm not a big fan of that. I tell you what to look for and what to use and how to use it. That's what I try to do. And then I use another word I use a lot is explore. Because if most people get on Google Maps and explore, they're going to find some fun places for catching and releasing smallies. Absolutely.
That's when I finally got into a pedal kayak and my range increased dramatically. I found myself just, going every place and any place I could, exploring and finding some of the coolest little spots that, I bet you 90% of the people around don't even know exist, because it's not super easy to get there. But man, once you get back there, it's like a paradise. It's almost,
and Sean, you mentioned the pedal kayaks. And again, I still have a Kraken 13.5 and a Kraken 15.5. And I love the Coosa FD, especially on the big water. But I just want to mention something that I talk about in the talk I'm going to do at Canoecopia, getting started in kayak fishing. The trend has been, to shorter, fatter kayaks. Fine. But I tend to prefer and would suggest people trying to go a little longer with their kayaks. And you know what? Unless everybody doesn't need a pedal kayak,
right?
There's still a lot of room for a paddle kayak. And the other biggest mistake people make, they spend a ton of time finding that perfect kayak, and then they buy a $100 paddle that's got aluminum handles. Let me just tell you, a paddle's going to last a long, long time. So spend some money on a lighter paddle for fishing, a little bigger blade. Right now, I'd say if you look at weight to value for what you pay, if you look at the Bending Branches Angler Ace or the Aquabound Manta Ray Carbon, they're both at like 225 for 29, 30 ounces. Phenomenal paddles that you'll never outgrow. However, personally, I'm spoiled. I've loved my Angler Pro Carbon for the last 4 years. That's 25 ounces. And so if you're a paddle person or even a pedal person, don't scrimp on your paddle. You will never be disappointed getting that paddle that's under 30 ounces with the bigger blades. It lasts you for a long time.
I say I love my pedal kayak, and I absolutely do. But I am totally in the market now I've been looking at Crescent for a light one, and with you talking about being able to fit everything you need in one little center hatch, that sounds great to me, because that's kind of what appeals to me with those. That kind of why I want to get back into the paddle kayaks, is to have almost a throw and go kayak. When I take everything in the kitchen sink with me with my pedal kayak, it takes me time to load it up in the truck, to unload it at the boat ramp, to get everything on it, to get out on the water, whereas if I had a little throw and go with maybe a rod or two and just one little, bag or container of my my lures, I could get on the water so much quicker. So,
I have to tell you, again, absolutely love my Cruza FD. I've got it on a Great Malone Microsport Deluxe trailer that I back right up with the wheels in the water. But, I keep myself in good shape. People say, well, hey, Bill, how come you lift 3 times a week? You're 70 years old and you do cardio. And I say, well, I have to be able to wade rivers and lift my kayaks, and fish all day. I don't want to be where I can fish one day and have to take 3 days off. So, but the neat thing about the lighter kayaks is they're easier to get in and out of the water. And as we get older, and I've talked to hundreds of people at Canoecopia over the years, and they come in and, hey, I'm looking for this kayak. I want to, I want to be standing up fishing. And I go, okay, how often at 55 years old do you think you're going to be standing up fishing? And they start thinking about it and they go, well, maybe not as much as I thought, but they might be better off. I mean, with a lighter kayak, you always have to, and again, people don't always think about the transport, which I do. And that's where you've got a truck, I got the trailer. If you're going to put, your kayak on your Malone rack on your car or your vehicle, you need to be able to, if you're alone, I mean, hey, listen, I'm a perfect example. Back in 2010 or 11, I'm out on a back road with a 14-foot kayak that only weighed 80 pounds. My vehicle was a little bit at a slant. I had to flag a guy down to help me lift it on my vehicle. And the guy was so nice, took him a minute. I would have said to me, did you think about maybe you might have trouble? He's so nice, but you do have to think about those things,
No, and not just can you do it when you are at home and you're throwing it up there to get onto the water, but you got to think about, hey, if I spend 8 hours on the water paddling, are my arms going to be able to lift this back on top of my car when I get back?
Listen, when you get to be my age and you're in a kayak for 4 or 5 hours, I think back to the old laugh-in days with Artie Johnson on his tricycle, and then he'd stop and he'd fall over. Hey, when I get out of my kayak, I hang on to it. So as I stand up and my knees straighten out, I don't fall over.
No, I definitely, I hear you there. It's something to keep in mind. But again, there's so many kayaks out there now. Just experiment, find the one that works for you.
Yep. Do your research. Research, and also we'll stop soon, but don't just put a whole bunch of stuff on it before you use it. use it first and then decide, oh, do I need these external rod holders? Do I need the anchor? Do I need a trolling motor? Do I need this? Do I need a locator? I have to tell you, all the times I've been on the water, or granted, a lot of times it's up in where the water's clear and I know it well, I've never had a locator on any of my kayaks. There's been a few times I wished I did, but I don't. So anyways.
No, I'm definitely guilty of that. When I first started, I loaded up my kayak, and if anything, like I said, when I look at this new paddle kayak that I'm looking at, I'm looking to simplify, not get crazy. So
well, yeah. So anyways, well, good luck with that, Sean. And again, thanks. Really appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to hearing from some of the viewers.
Awesome, man, Bill. Well, thank you again, and we will definitely have you on again sometime. Maybe when you hit 30. That sounds like a good milestone. I was just going to say, hey, I'm getting close to 30,000. So yep, awesome, man. Well, we will definitely bring you back when you hit that, and see what else you've learned in the meantime. Good. Okay.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate being on. Thanks.
No problem, man. Thanks, guys. Everybody who's listening, thank you for checking us out. Check the show notes for all the information about Bill, and we'll catch you next time. This has been the Bass Fishing for Noobs segment on the Paddle and Fin podcast, where we bring you the techniques, the tricks, and the tips to help you rip more lips. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com